Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great episode for you guys. We are going to be doing an Omega run, which is basically just cleaning up any books that we had from the previous week and then venturing through the backlog here. So, without any further ado, we'll just go ahead and jump into it, shall we? So, of course, for the Omega run, we don't really talk about anything else other than reviewing the books, just trying to catch up. We have 10 books we'll be reviewing overall, one book from the pulls last week. Everything else is going to be a backlog edition, so I'll just read everything so you know what books I'm going to review and what order, so that way you can skip around if you'd like to. So first off, we have Avengers number 34. That was the pull from last week, and then everything else here is going to be those backlogs. So we have Nice House by the Sea, issue number 3. Then we have a new trade we're starting here, Ghost Peppers, issue number 1, or Ghost Pepper, I should say. Then we have Saga. This is going to be issue number 45. Then another new trade, or more of a graphic novel. It's going to be Issunboshi, just the first chapter, I guess, if you will. Then another book here, Batman, The Killing Joke. So this is the deluxe edition, but basically I'm just actually only reviewing The Killing Joke for this book. So that'll be a longer discussion for that one. Then we have our continuation through Poison Ivy, the 3rd volume. So that's going to be Poison Ivy, issue number 14. Then we have the Fables, going to be issue number 156. Then another new trade, Echoland's going to be issue number 1. So this is kind of an interesting book here because it's like really long, but it's like almost like comic strip format rather than like a comic book format, which is kind of interesting. So we'll go through that. And then we have part 3 in our Dragon Age adventure, Blue Wraith, issue number 3. So those will be the 10 books. As you can tell, a bunch of new stuff, which is nice. I think from here, I only have a handful more trades before I'm all caught up. I'm trying to think. I think it's just a couple more volumes of Poison Ivy. Of course, Saga, we're still working our way through. Once we finish up Nice House by the Sea, that'll be it for the singles. And then The Last Ronin is, I think, the only other unread trade that I still potentially have to review. So we're catching up pretty quick here, folks, and then we'll just kind of be on to the standard issues kind of moving forward. But first off here, so the first book that we have, The Avengers, issue number 34. If this is your very first time tuning in, thank you so much. Appreciate it. The way that this review format goes is I'll give you my score on League. I'll give you the score on League itself. I'll catch you up on the story thus far, and then I do spoil the books. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're not interested in spoilers, it's just not going to be the show for you. But we'll go through it. I'll show off the artwork in the end, and then I'll let you know if this is a good one to jump into. As we all know, comics, it's like, you know, do I start here? Do I not? It's like such a high number at issue number 34. But you never know. Sometimes it's the start of a new arc. Sometimes it's a really good recap. And I try to let you know of, you know, don't be afraid, or no, sorry, you actually do need a whole bunch of context in order for this story to make sense. So that'll be the format. So first one is going to be The Avengers, issue number 34. I give it a 4. League gave it a 3.5. I was a little surprised to see it that low, only because the artwork in this was phenomenal. A step above of the traditional kind of standard Marvel artwork, and so that's what pushed it up to a 4 for me. On the story front, though, I totally understand why it was a lower score. It's basically a massive recap. It's a massive recap of every single thing that has happened from issue 1 all the way up through issue number 34. So I get that people are like, well, I read all this, I don't need to be reminded. But for me, there's actually some stuff reading through here. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that arc. And it was kind of a nice reminder. So that being said, it's actually a phenomenal book to jump into from that perspective. But there's only 2 or 3 more issues left. I think it's this, 35, and I think it wraps it up at 36, and then it's done. And then we'll probably have some sort of massive reset if I had to guess. So you can jump into 34, and then you'll just have 3 more books, and that'll set you up ready to go into something completely new, or you can just wait until kind of the restart. But you would be fine here. It's just a massive recap. So it has every single arc that has led up to this point. Right now, the Avengers, they're fighting Kang. They're at the missing moment. They're trying to grab this Holy Grail. Kang wants it to be the master of the universe, But what the Avengers realize towards the end here is, as they're rattling off all this incredible stuff that they've done and that they'll never back down, basically, Kang's like, why are you doing this? Like, the Holy Grail is here. It's already starting to initialize. It's going to take hold and do what it needs to do and wipe out the universe, and then I'll be the sole one in control. But what the Avengers realize is, like, this was created by Reed Richards in some other universe, unknowingly or unconsciously, and the way that it's activated is based on a certain form of heroism. And so finally Captain Marvel, after recapping everything, is like, what form of heroism do you think Reed Richards subscribed to? Your version of, like, you kind of just do whatever you want and whatever your influence is, and you write the rule book and that's what makes everything right? Or our version, where we're actually trying to, avenge people and have some sort of justice in this universe? And then sure enough, they're like, the whole reason we recap this was not for your benefit, but for the benefit of, like, pleading to the Grail that we're the actual heroes. And the Grail does open up and presents itself to the Avengers. So Kang, at first, seems extraordinarily distraught and disappointed, but he starts laughing. And he's like, you fools, it's already been initialized. The universe is now going to reset. And now you guys have the impossible decision of deciding which one of you is going to be the one to survive and restart the universe. And that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on. So I actually thought it was pretty cool, but I get it. If you read all 33 issues up to this point, you're like, I wanted some more story here. But the artwork is outstanding. So let's go ahead and show off some of that so you can see it. My book too, it's a little bit damaged, unfortunately. Some of the center staples when you get towards the fold, so that may be popping out a little bit, just FYI. But here's the art so you can kind of take a look. It's excellent from an action perspective. The Avengers are fighting with the Twilight Council against Kang and his basically horde of zombies, as they're in, I don't know, what's best described as like nowhere. It's like a middle of nowhere cosmic abnormality. But here's a recap of everything and all the adventures that they've been on, from everything that Black Panther has done to what Captain America has done to what Captain Marvel has done to all the different events and things like that they've been through. So here's them pleading the case, and then finally this is where the Holy Grail opens up to them. Captain Marvel grabs it and Kang says, ha ha ha, you fools. So now you got to basically decide who is going to actually be the sole survivor of the universe as it resets. So that's the end of that part. And then the back half, we have basically, it's the 800th issue of the Avengers kind of overall. So we get a really brief one-shot story. It's all the Avengers assembling using like some sort of like old Codex card, and they all start to slowly show up and they fight Viper. And as I'm reading through this, I haven't read a Brian Bendis book before, and I'm reading through it, and it's extraordinarily quippy, to the point where I'm like, I could imagine this being a writing style that doesn't jive with every single person. And so I had to look it up and just look and be like, is that like a critique of his? And sure enough, I'm like, I look it up and it's literally has a phrase called a Bendis speech. So that is like the dialogue that you get here. It works extraordinarily well, I can imagine, for Spider-Man. But for this instance, you have some characters that are acting like really quippy when they wouldn't, like Doom, for instance, who's not featured in this. But if Doom the character was, and that was the writing style, it doesn't jive at all with the character. So that's so funny. And literally this small couple page issue, I picked up on that, so just kind of one of those things, I guess. Been doing this for a decent amount of time and read enough to where you start to pick up on these slight things. So that was so funny to me that, like, I feel like this is going to be a quirk that people don't like, and sure enough, it is a quirk that people don't like about him. So I find that funny. But that was a cute little ending at the end there. Bendis, actually, he's the longest running Avengers writer. I want to say he started in like the early 2000s. I think it was like 04 or something like that is what it said. And he read all the way through 2012. So, nice to give the longest running, writer of the series to give him some shine there. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, that's Avengers issue number 34. Actually a fine time to jump in if you wanted to, but I understand towards the end of the story here, maybe you just want to wait for a fresh start. And again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.5. So the next one here is going to be The Nice House by the Sea, issue number 3. And here is an instance of where this whole series, I'm going to say, don't read this. You want to read Nice House on the Lake first, all 12 of those issues, 2 volumes, before you go ahead and you jump into this one at all. But I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.3. And I think the reason I was a little lower on this is I don't think there was any sort of massive reveal that I cared about that really pushed me to the point of like audibly gasping or being like, wow, that's surprising and shocking. Maybe Tiny And's not getting long in the tooth, because that is not the phrase at all, but just I'm anticipating what the shock is going to be, and it's not hitting as hard as it had before, right? It's just like getting used to anything else. So that was the reason this issue didn't pick up for me. If I can recap everything for you, it is the end of the world, and there are these aliens that have reserved a couple of different biomes of people in it. They're all biomes full of like 10 folks, and it's supposed to be like a shining example of the human race. We don't really know what it's all for, if it's an experiment or what have you. The Nice House on the Lake is one biome. Walter is the alien in charge of it, and what he does is he recruits all of his friends. Then this biome in the Nice House by the Sea, it's controlled by Max, and Max did what he or she, not entirely sure, I believe it's a she, did everything that she was supposed to do, and actually picked like the best of each representation of these 10 different categories for humans. And in the Nice House by the Lake, so I'll just call it the lake biome versus the sea biome. The lake biome, they got to the point where everyone found out what was all happening. Walter basically gave them an opportunity to decide what they wanted to do, live all together in harmony, burn it all to the ground, kill Walter. They ended up wanting to kill Walter, but it turns out Walter's not actually dead. He shows up back in the form of this dog 2 years later that he's now hanging out with them. There's this big thunderstorm that takes place in the sea biome, and when that happens, the folks in the lake cross over through what's called like behind the scenes, if you will, where they can kind of go in what's happening truly behind the scenes of these biomes and end up into Max's biome, which has one of their old friends from high school, Oliver, new character that was introduced to us in this series. So that basically gets you current. And then this issue is Oliver talking to Nora, talking to Reg, and then talking to Ryan. So Nora and Reg and Oliver all grew up as kids. We learned a little bit more about Oliver and his kind of backstory and how he interacted with Walter growing up. Apparently they dated for a little bit, on again, off again thing, and it got to the point where Walter either wasn't interested or like went different ways from Oliver, but still wanted Oliver to be part of this whole thing, and actually led on to Oliver more information on what all is happening here, more than he did for Nora and more than he did for Reg. So they're both parties are talking back and forth. Oliver's like, you guys are going to screw this all up on your side because it's supposed to be, you know, these exemplary people. Oliver knew all about that, so he actually tried in the world and tried to prove himself, so when he was put into this biome, he was going to be ready to go. Nora and Reg didn't necessarily know that. When Reg, if he did, he like didn't really care. Same with Nora as well. They kind of knew that they were going to get picked to be selected into a house. A lot of this is a recap for the benefit of the character of Ryan, who's relatively new to all this, and then for us as the reader as well. So that's why I hesitated when I was like, can you jump into this one? Yeah, because you kind of get a little bit of a recap, but you really should read Nice House on the Lake before you jump into this one, in my opinion. And so after their long discussion, basically decide like, okay, we'll just forget that this ever happened. Fortunately, in the sea biome, nobody else is around as far as they know, and Max then shows up, and C is like, oh, hey, you guys are here, and you think it's going to be a big old to-do, but it's actually not. Max is like, okay, it's fine. We'll just send you right back to your own biome. And so they get everything all ready to go and all the controls. And Max says, and by the way, I'd love to talk to Walter. Now, Nora, Reg, and Ryan know that they killed Walter. So they're like, what do we do? And Reg just like plays it off like, okay, cool, yeah, you can come and talk to Walter. So they don't divulge that he's dead. But in actuality, he's not dead. They just think that he's dead. So Max is like, okay, cool. And then the other shoe drops is that Nora, when Nora was Norm, used to date Max back in the day. So she was like, all flipping out of like, oh my god, Max is here, and like this is the first time that those two have spoken since they broke up, and apparently it was a terrible breakup. So more to come onto that. And that was like probably one of the biggest reveals. So then finally, when the lake people head back to their biome and we remain in the sea biome, Oliver's just pondering of like, oh my gosh, what does all of this mean? And then one of his housemates, who's not a friend of any of this stuff, just one of these exemplary people that are in the biome sees, and us as the reader are like, okay, did he see the whole conversation, everything, and the lake people head back? Or is he truly just looking at Oliver now, but still kind of on to something? TBD. But that was the cliffhanger we were left off on. So it's interesting, things are picking up, but it didn't quite push it over the edge to me to give it a 4.5. But still a very good book. So yeah, showing off some of the artwork here. I say the art has been, totally fine. It's more of like kind of the water paint style and penciling style that it has been traditionally, and it's all really about the storytelling in this one. It has been, and it continues to be, and it likely will continue to be. I don't imagine it's going to be some sort of crazy change of pace like that towards the end. But yep, the history of Oliver, and then basically Max standing in the back, and then one of the housemates of the sea seeing Oliver all distraught and upset. So that's Nice House by the Sea, issue number 3. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.3. And then onto a new one. We got Ghost Pepper. So this is a trade that I picked up. It actually came out last week. So this is technically new. And I was like, okay, I definitely want to read it. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it from my shop or if I was going to get it online, because my sister actually picked me up a gift card. But they already had it in my box for me. I was like, okay, I'll pick it up here. So that just leaves more gift card money to buy something a little later down the line. But for Ghost Pepper, I was super interested, and on top of that, each and every week, one of these books, or it was listed as one of the top 5 when you do, your picks of the week, consistently, week after week after week, which is always a good indication for me of like, okay, you missed the first couple. Let's just wait till it's on trade, and then you can go ahead and then read a bunch all at once. I also plan on doing that with Batman's Dark Patterns as well, so maybe I go ahead and I pick that up from the gift card place. And so anyways, for this one, issue number 1, setting up of a universe, I gave this issue a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. It's very anime in nature in how it's the pacing of it, but the world itself is a mix between Mad Max and Cyberpunk, more Mad Max in nature. We have a main character, Laloy, who is in this like encampment place after the world looks like it's gone to shit, but she has this food truck that she's selling these I think it's ramen, but it has like ghost pepper in the ramen. And so she's like talking to town. Whenever her truck comes by, people love it. And as she sets up camp, far off, these authorities, like they look like basically robot drones, are alerted, and they're called into the action, and they land in the encampment right next to the food truck, and there's a customer there, and basically the drones are like, guns drawn, like step away from the cart, hands up, the whole 9. And Laloy is like, holy crap, I don't know what the hell is going on. And the guy steps away, and he like pushes back, and he like pushes back the cart as well, and it's very anime, very slow pacing, aura farming, the whole thing, doing the poses. It's like super over the top, but it's pretty cool. And so he reveals that it's a dude named Ash, and he's got this like pet like golem, and it's almost like a sand person looking golem thing on his shoulder. And he's like, all right, we're gonna do this the hard way, I guess. And then basically gets ready to a fighting pose. And then that's the cliffhanger of like, who is this guy? What is this all going to be about? I have no idea what it has to do with Ghost Pepper. I guess we'll find out, but there's going to be this epic fight between this dude who seems to have some sort of super strength and these robots in this Mad Max kind of world. So yeah, it was cool. Artwork is outstanding. It's definitely one of the shining pieces of this whole thing. It reminds me a lot of Battle Chasers. I'm pretty sure it's the same artist and same kind of creator, so that explains a lot of it. So very much a Saturday morning cartoon type of vibe, and then also a little bit of like a video gamey type of vibe as well, but great saturation and great level of detail in like these kind of anime style of poses. So here is like basically where this big old fight is about to take place, and it's looking pretty epic. So yeah, I am enjoying it a lot. We'll see how it continues to go. That is Ghost Pepper, issue number 1. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. Next up is going to be Saga, our continuation here in volume number 8. This is issue number 45. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.6. So we finally picked it back up. For the last couple of issues in this volume, it's been 4s, but this one definitely deserved a 4.5. So the family here trying to get an abortion for Alana. Her child has died after being pushed inside the rocket. She fell down, doesn't feel the heartbeat of the baby. They're on this abortion planet, and the place they try to go to refuses to do it, and also they're really scared about where to go because obviously Alana being the wings and Marco being the horns, not supposed to be together. There's this whole civil war going on, trying to keep it as secret as possible. But they're said if they go to the other side of the planet, basically, there's a town and there's shady folks that will, perform the surgery. So Alana, Marco, and their daughter Hazel, they all end up on this train and they're heading out. And Alana has at first like this nightmare, and she sees her unborn son, and that was the cliffhanger. And we come immediately now into issue number 45, and the son is basically some sort of magic portrayal of what a future could potentially be. So Marco explains it's like some super powerful magic, and it's an echo that shows what your future might have been. But you can interact with the ghost, the shadow, the vision, whatever you want to call it. And so Hazel's like playing with her quote-unquote brother, and they're acting very much like brother and sister, as though he's been alive, and he's a little bit older too, and he's been like this way this entire time, which is kind of crazy. So a little older in the sense that he's like equivalent to Hazel's age, even though Hazel would obviously be older. And so like they're bickering and they're fighting, and Alana's like, oh my gosh, it's so cute, I don't know what to do, I don't want to just like stop doing this, plus I really don't even know how I'm doing it. But Marco's like, you gotta be really careful because this spell is extraordinarily powerful and it could cause cardiac arrest. So that happens. Back at camp, we have Petri, who is being spied on by these bandits. The bandits call her out, and they basically got guns on her, and they have her captured. And they're like, tell us what all is happening here, and you can't just be here by yourself. And so Petri lies and says she was just here by herself, she's trying to get an abortion, and her boyfriend left. And so they kind of believe her, kind of don't, but they don't really know. But then Prince Robot comes back, and so he came back and returned, and he starts like having guns drawn like he's going to shoot the bandits. Petri goes up, and she's like completely bound up, but her face is exposed, and she goes and bites off the nose of one of the bandits as well. And so now you have a noseless bandit, and like they got guns pointed all over the place. So we'll see where all that ends. So end scene there. Then we go back to Alana, Marco, and Hazel, and Alana faints, right? So is going into cardiac arrest because she kept this vision going for so long. And so Marco's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And then you just hear this like disgusting monstery creature come out and be like, I can help you. And it's like this dog, but it almost looks like it's like 80 years old, but it's like a dog monster beast with like flopping nipples all over the place, and like the most Saga way that you have ever seen any of the art. It's like, I don't even know if I could show it and get away with it. Classic Saga, right? So but it's good. I enjoyed it a lot. Again, I gave it a 4.5. So it's definitely good stuff. So here's where the bandits, they start going after Petri. Here is also Alana and the vision she's having with her brother, and they're like, actually acting as the siblings. Boom, that's where she bites off the nose, and Prince Robot shows himself pretty quickly here towards the end. And then, yeah, that is what the monster looks like. Like, what the hell is that thing? And I guess that's also supposed to be who does, like, the abortions or whatever. So we'll see how that all actually goes. So, yeah, Saga issue number 45. Again, gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.6. It's excellent stuff. From there, actually, I'm going to call an audible here because I think it actually makes a lot of sense to do it this way. So rather than talking about Issunboshi, we're going to go with Batman the Killing Joke, because to talk about Saga and then talk about this, I think is actually pretty fitting. So for the Killing Joke, Lee gave this iteration of the book, which is like this deluxe edition, a 3.9. I'm giving the Killing Joke a 4. So I read through it. Obviously, very famous book, highly rated, highly regarded. I felt like if I was doing this podcast, I would have to review this book at some point. I think it was on the shelf. I saw it, and I was like, okay, I plan on reading this. Let's go ahead and pick it up. So I've had it for quite a while. And now's the time. I go ahead and start reading it. I didn't realize how long ago this book actually came out. So The Killing Joke originally came out in 1988. So here we are now in 2026. So as you're reading through it, the language behind it is more of comics from the 80s than comics of 2026. So it is of a time, and it doesn't age super well in the sense that what it thinks it's doing is crazy over the top, but it's actually not, especially when you just compare it to what I just talked about with Saga. So it actually, in the end, for me, is an extraordinarily overrated book. I would say personally. I don't know how people are going to feel about that, if you'd be pissed off of like, oh, I didn't know that, but I was expecting super, super high things, and I was not impressed, to be perfectly honest. So I'll tell the story. What you have for The Killing Joke is Batman first is conflicted. He's like, I got to go to Joker and tell him we got to de-escalate whatever it is that we're doing because we're going to end up killing one another. So he goes to Arkham Asylum. He sees the Joker there. Joker's playing solitaire. And then very quickly he realizes this isn't actually the Joker. The Joker has gotten out. And sure enough, the Joker did get out. And he goes to a rundown carnival at the end of a pier in Gotham, and he buys it. And so when he buys it, we then cut to a scene of Gordon and his daughter Barbara. They're hanging out. Barbara's going to go do yoga or whatever. Gordon knows that the Joker's out and it's like trying to figure out what all to do. Doorbell rings. Barbara's like, oh, it's my friend for yoga. Opens the door. It's not. It's the Joker with a gun and shoots her right in the midsection. So she's down and out and then rushed to the hospital. Joker kidnaps Gordon, takes him to the carnival place. And it's all screwed up and twisted and like, you know, the bearded lady and like all that type of stuff. And Joker tries to absolutely humiliate Gordon. And he tries to have a point behind all of this. So then we go to the hospital. Batman's checking in on Barbara, and she's basically paralyzed. And the doctor also insinuates, like, the initial investigation shows that, like, there was film and photos that were taken as well, insinuating some pretty effed up sexual assault and, like, pornographic type of stuff that was taken as well. So then Gordon, he's being ushered through this, like, conveyor belt thing in this cart, like, think of like a mine cart thing. And he's seeing all these effed up images. He's stripped completely naked to be like humiliated, and the most uncomfortable, crazy, over the top thing ever of like effectively being tortured, right? And then as he's going through this ride, then he sees pictures of his daughter, which insinuates sexual assaults, the blood and everything of her being shot, whatever else could have potentially happened. Makes your mind go wild as to all the things that Gordon was exposed to. So really dark, twisted stuff. Batman then comes, and at first, he has no idea where the Joker is. He finally gets an invitation to the pier. He goes, he rescues Gordon, and Gordon seems totally out of it. Of like, is this a person that's now going to go insane? But Gordon snaps out of it. Batman then's like, all right, I'm going to go after Joker. And Gordon's very specific of like, make sure you get him, and you get him the right way. And so Batman gets him, and then again, tries to plead with Joker. Like, please, please, please. We can't keep doing this. It's only going to continue to escalate. More people are going to get hurt, and like, it's not a joke anymore, and I can help you. We can help get you to the other side. And then, kind of famously, the whole story ends with a bit of a parable. And the best parable that I can describe is kind of the frog and the scorpion, or the scorpion and the frog trying to cross the river. Scorpion's going to get on the frog's back, says, I'm not going to sting you. And the frog's like, well, you're a scorpion. Of course you are. It's part of your nature. It's like, no, if I did that, of course we're going to die. And then they get halfway across. Scorpion either gets nervous or freaks out and stings the frog. And the frog's like, why the hell did you do that? Now we're both going to die. Scorpion's like, it's in my nature. Same thing happens here. And throughout the book, you basically see the origin of this Joker and how he became the Joker. He was just trying to be a comedian, trying to put food on the table. His wife was pregnant. His wife, unfortunately, dies as he's supposed to do this job to get some money because he can't actually get a gig. They go to do the job. It goes sideways. He gets pushed into the vat, and he becomes basically the Joker. It's not even the vat. It's like a lake with the chemicals being spilled everywhere. So really just a poor guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Joker's trying to show with Gordon of like, see, anyone can be crazy as long as you put them through this insane amount of circumstances. But that didn't happen to Gordon. So after Batman does this whole plea, Joker's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And he gives the parable, except his version is you have two inmates, they're trying to escape, and they're trying to, leave the jail. They go up to the roof, they cross from one roof to the other. One inmate goes, but the second one will not. He's afraid of going. And so the one that crossed is like, well, I have this flashlight. I'll find it back, or, shine it back to you. You can go across the plank, and you'll be able to get to the other side. And the inmate says, no, I would never do that, because as soon as I got halfway across, you would certainly take the light away and then would just leave me there to die. And then the Joker just starts laughing. Batman laughs a little bit too, and that's basically the end. So a part of it is because of the bizarre way that it ends and what it all means. These two, the yin and the yang, pulling against one another, and no matter what, they're always going to be in this cycle, right? So you basically have a situation here of like, yeah, Batman, you offer me to do this, but I'm not going to go through with it, so why even try? Let's just, recognize who we are. And not try to do that any further. So that's the one piece. And then the other piece is like the super edgy, I'm sure for the time, everything that happened to Barbara and what Gordon was exposed to. But you scale that up to 2025, or 2026 at this point now. All the craziness that's happened in the world, let alone the level of, kind of adult stuff that happens in comics nowadays, it's very tame compared to what you have now. And yeah, it just doesn't age very well for 2026 to be like, oh, this is a masterpiece. It's like, okay, if this was the origin of comics getting extraordinarily dark, then yeah, a lot is owed back to it. Like, big wrestling fan, there's a lot of matches that you can look back to of like, oh, that match, maybe it doesn't hold up, but modern wrestling is built off of everything that happened in that style of match. Okay, then you give kudos to this book for sure. But there are matches in history and professional wrestling that still hold up to this day. They're incredible. They're awesome. Like, you can watch them now and still in a modern context, they still work. It makes sense from a psychological perspective. This does not. It doesn't get to the point where it was like really hits with the impact that you would imagine, especially with how revered and how much it's talked. It's truly overhyped, is the best way to boil it down. So yeah, I wasn't impressed. Also the language, it's 88, it's very wordy, right? So we're describing every single thing that's happening in these scenes, where less is more now in comics these days. We have very short attention spans. I think even me droning on about this book for so long is probably beyond the point of where you're like fully locked in and paying attention, right? Like, got these phones, the social media, everything else that's happening, so much stuff that we can consume, a lot of stress in the world, so on and so forth. And so as I'm reading through it, I'm like, just get to the point. And I'm also looking for it too, because I know what this book, or at least how it's talked about, and I'm expecting life-changing stuff here. Just didn't happen. So solid 4 for, what it was doing. I could see it going lower. Art's great. No concern there. But yeah, not truly over the top. And once you get to that joke towards the end, it's like, oh, I've actually seen that on social media. I didn't even realize at the time that it came from the Killing Joke. So bit of a disappointment for me, but I can say I read it and can now say it could be fully a part of the conversation. So let's go ahead, show off some of the artwork here. I don't necessarily know if it's an important one to really read through. Tough to recommend it. It's one of those like howled titles of like, oh, you have to read the Killing Joke, right? And I'm reading it and I'm like, I don't really know why. Like, I get it's weird, and maybe this was insane for 88, but for 2026, it's not really all that crazy. So yeah, flipping through the artwork again, very good on the artwork side of things. So that's all good and well, but not quite living up to the expectation that I had in my mind overall. So that's Batman: The Killing Joke. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. And then from here, we'll go to Issunboshi, which doesn't have a rating on League. I'm surprised because this book is freaking awesome. Came out about a year ago. I just saw it in the polls or the previews, and I just saw the cover, and I was like, this book looks freaking awesome. So I went ahead and went to the shop, asked them to pre-order it, and I am enjoying the hell out of this book. So I read the prologue, and I read chapter number 1. So the prologue sets up the world here. We're in Japan in some sort of magical time. The world was created by this enormous sword. Like, if you play World of Warcraft, like the huge sword that goes into Azeroth, that size of sword, like size of a planet. And it casts or descends down into the water, into the ocean, lifts up, and like sets off a single drop off the tip of the sword, and that becomes the island of Japan, right? And so from there, the sword breaks up into 4 different pieces. I think it becomes wood, stone, and I think dirt are the 3. But, 3 things that are on Earth. And then the 4th, it becomes like a spirit, or like the wind, basically. And it's basically prophesized, if these 4 are to be united, it's really only going to be used for evil power. So they kind of have to stay separate. So along comes man, and sure enough, one day, the tree, or the wood, is found. And so now, like, oh my gosh, if one is found, somehow everything else is going to be found. And so the spirit in particular is the only one that can kind of flow around. Runs into an older couple, and all they ever wanted was a child. They couldn't have one. They wanted a son, and they're like, even if he was the size of a thumb, we would have him. And so the spirit turns himself into literally a baby the size of a thumb. And so that's what is the prologue and starts our story. Starting in chapter 1, it's kind of a coming of age, where he's 16, 18, something along those lines. And it's taking place in a feudal Japan type of setting. And he's in some sort of village. He's got friends. Life seems to be going well, even though he's like literally the size of a thumb. He's tiny. And everyone is about to decide, what kind of profession that they're going to be. Merchant, artist, something in the trades. And it's about time for him to go off and lead. And he has a conversation with his parents. We're normal size, and they're like, hey, we knew since day one there's something special about you. The fact that you came to us, your size, everything that's going on is like, we only knew it was going to be on borrowed time, and you weren't going to be a merchant of some kind, right? There's something special for you. So go out there and adventure and go and find whatever it is that you're destined for. And so when that happens, they're in their house, and this enormous raven comes in and attacks, like the size of the house, comes in, attacks, swoops up Issunboshi, which is the name of the guy, picks him up. He had his backpack on as he was about to leave. There's a sword in there, gets lifted up into the sky. He grabs the sword, stabs the raven in one of the claws, and then he gets dropped to the ground. And that is the cliffhanger that we're left off on. So awesome story, awesome setup. I love the artwork on this as well. I'll go ahead and show off some of that so you can go ahead and see it. It is like a black and white, at least to start anyways, book. And it is so cool from the detail of everything that it's showing. It feels in tone very Mulan. Like, that's exactly the tone and the humor behind it. It's like excellent. And like, look at this thing. It looks like Disney put this together. It truly looked like a Disney Pixar movie in the format of a graphic novel. And so I'm just loving it. And I highly recommend it. I can already tell this is on pace to be a 4.5, if not even higher. We'll see where the story actually ends up going. But it is excellent, excellent stuff. So here's where he goes, and he ends up falling, leading us into chapter number 2. So that's Issunboshi. Go check the description for the spelling. But I'm enjoying the hell out of this. Cannot wait to continue to read through it. And there's no score on Leak. So this is probably the only place you're going to get a review unless you start Googling it and someone else has it out there. But I was amazed that no one has it. 200-page book. So, it's about 6 or so comic issues for $25. Not bad at all. And then next up here is going to be Poison Ivy. So I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. It is Poison Ivy, issue number 14 here. So we have continuation of exactly where we left off. So Poison Ivy is back in Gotham. Batman basically said, hey, we got our eye on you. And so Poison Ivy's like, screw the you. I got to find my own place. She goes out to the swampy area, finds a shack, but Killer Croc's there. And she's like, oh, well, that's not going to work. Can I have this space? You go back to the sewers. Croc's like, no, the sewers are all screwed up because they're doing all this construction. Can you do something about this construction and clean up the sewers? And then, yeah, I'd be happy to go back. So that was the end of issue number 13. So issue for 14, Poison Ivy is on site. She's going and seeing this whole construction site, but it's like empty. And not only is it empty, but there's this guy who's like poisoned with this like flower coming out of his face on the ground. So she's like, uh-oh, it's the Lamia spore. It's starting to mutate and now infecting this job site. So she goes and explores. It's this huge condominium skyscraper building that's under construction. She starts working her way through it. And so at first she touched the flower and feels like it was harmless, but now it seems like she was like poisoned, or she's under the effects of these hallucinogens. She's going through like this maze and this labyrinth that is the job site, and she thinks she knows exactly where she's going. Then she gets lost, and then she gets confused, and now she's starting to panic, and then she runs, right? So it's all like, what the hell is actually going on here? Meanwhile, before this panic started to set in, she called her assistant. I think her name is Pam. Let me double check that. What is her name for Poison Ivy? Janet is who she calls. And Janet is like, hey, I'm doing some research on who owns the building. It's like this crazy billionaire guy. What do you want me to do about it? And Poison Ivy's like, well, Janet, you were an HR person. Try to get a job there. Do some corporate espionage. So Janet applies. She gets an interview. And basically they're onto her pretty quickly of like, there's something fishy about you. So she decides, the person doesn't hire her. She decides to leave. She's then confronted by Batman. And Batman's like, look, I know you're working with Poison Ivy and also kind of Harley Quinn as well. Stop. You don't want to go any further. It's not going to end well. And she panics, Janet. And so she panics and she punches Batman in the face. She's just a regular old human. Punches her in the face and then just starts running. And Batman's like, really? And he just kind of ignores it. And she goes running down an alley, and Harley Quinn's there. And Harley's like, oh my God, I saw that. Did you really just punch Batman? Are you insane? She's like, I don't know. I just panicked and he saw me, and I just don't want to listen to him. And she's like, all right, calm down, calm down. And so, Harley's trying to calm her down. And then Janet looks up at Harley and is like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And then the two start getting closer and closer. And then they start making out. And it's like, whoa, are we in the midst of a throuple here between the three of them? Because Janet and Poison Ivy hooked up just a couple of issues ago. It's like, what the hell is going on here? So that was a very random and weird scene. But then we get back to Poison Ivy. And so she's now lost in this, the job site in the condominium. And the guy who poisoned the original person, like the dead body that she found, reveals himself. And it's like, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it wonderful? And if he reveals his name, I honestly don't know what it is. But it's this guy. If you look at the cover here, if you're on the video, but if you just look for the A cover for 14, whatever this guy is with the flower on his face is the one that she runs into. So yeah, let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork for this one. It's kind of an interesting book, They try to do the whole sexy time thing from issue to issue from time to time with this. But it's like, why is Janet making out with Harley Quinn? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, here she is in the condo, and she's getting lost and all confused. This is where the interview takes place, where Janet swings on Batman, goes, seriously? And she just runs off. Here's where she runs into Harley, and they start kissing towards the end there. And then here's where Janet runs into this guy at the end here, and we'll see what all comes of that. So yeah, Poison Ivy, issue number 14. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.2. Alrighty, then we got Fables, issue number 156. So a whole bunch happening here in Fables. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. We have multiple stories going on. So we have Jack in the Green, who's recently been promoted to this position. She's trying to go on a quest, find herself in Manhattan. She's like, oh, I know who I'm going after. I'm going after Peter. And it finally dawned on me that it's Peter Pan very clearly, because he's got Tinkerbell by his side. And Peter Pan's the big bad. He already didn't destroy Geppetto, but basically put Geppetto in some sort of stone. And Fables, if you can tell, is all these fables where it's all twisted and contorted and kind of weird and odd. So Jack in the Green holds Peter hostage in a restaurant with a bow and arrow, and the cops are called, and they just go in there and are like, lady, you have a bow and arrow, we're going to stop you. And it's funny, then it just has this big old kind of commentary on police officers and deciding when to follow the rules and when not to, because they really should have waited for their commander, but they just went in and did their own thing, kind of cavalier. She's like, isn't that what I was supposed to literally just doing right now by going after Peter, who I know is a big bad? She's like, yeah, but you can't do it that way. It's like, well, why not? And so it's this whole back and forth. So it's kind of funny of she's not understanding the human world, but at the same time a bunch of contradictory things happening there. So that was kind of funny and cute. Then the other story, we have these werewolves and these kids that were sent off to go on these grand adventures. So the one kid ran into a bookworm. He came back after looking like he was captured, but he was truly never really in any danger. We have the other son who is on this path with like this murder, and he's just killing people. And he ran into this one fellow on the road, and he's black, and he's like saying the most horrific, like racist things. And then so the kid, who was the part werewolf, turns into like this monstrous creature and literally bites the head off of the villain guy, and then tells the other passerby, like, you know, go on, you're free. And then he heads back. So that ends that little adventure there. Then we have one of the daughters who opened up all these boxes to that were chained up, and inside of them was like huge monstrous demon along with this demon child. Turns out now she's now dating the child demon, so they're like together. They all head back from their adventure. And then the last daughter jumped into this teacup, and in the teacup it looks like a speck or a crumb, but it's actually truly a whole island down there, and she's basically down there on vacation, just kind of hanging out. So that all happened and took place as well. And trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, so now they're all trying to figure out, you know, what basically to do next. And the biggest thing is the boy who was taken by the bookworm. He goes back there and he basically makes him a slave, and it's like, yeah, I like your house here, but you need to turn it into a university. So that's what you're going to do. And basically sets forth that command of he has to do this basically moving forward. And so, yeah, it's just like slowly advancing the plot here. It's kind of interesting how things are starting to intersect and unfold. Don't really know what Cinderella's up to. She was the one that was like resurrected, and now she's trying to work for the U.S. government to get rid of like all these different magical beings. And so she's supposed to be a spy, but she's not brought up in this particular issue. So it's a tough one to jump into for sure, because it's like kind of crazy. This trade has 12 issues in it, starting with issue number, I think it was 151. Yes, 151. So we're about halfway through this one, and we'll just kind of keep plugging through it. So yeah, that's Fables issue number 156. Go ahead and show off the artwork so you can take a look here. Let's see. I think I got to go a little bit further. Yeah, here we are. So this one is where she's got the chains. We have, oh no, hold on. I gotta go a little further than that. Here we are. So, nope, I think I have to go even further than that. Here we are. So this is where the villain is, and where he goes and bites off his head. Got Jack in the Green, getting arrested, all that kind of stuff. Standard comic book edition here. You know, nothing crazy as far as the artwork's concerned. Here's the girl and like the demon father and the demon child, where they're hanging out as well. We have Peter Pan, him going crazy, killing a bunch of the police officers, and then everyone deciding what their next adventure is going to be. So yeah, that is Fables issue 156. Alrighty, next up is going to be Echoland, another new #1 in this like comic strip style. This book is an interesting one. It looks like Lee gave the overall book, I think, a 4.1. This first issue, Lee gave it a 4.2. There's 6 issues in total in this little trade. How Echolands is basically described is this crazy fantastical land where anything is possible. So the first issue, we start off here with the main character being Red, and she looks like a take on Little Red Riding Hood, and she's a thief of some sort. She's working with this guy Chorus, and they're stealing something of a jewel or gem, and this big, I don't know, kind of like ghostly phantom thing is chasing after them in this city, and the city keeps changing constantly. And so they're like, oh yeah, I planned my escape route here. Like, you know that the city's only going to stay that way for a couple of days. You can't like plan this stuff out weeks in advance. And so finally they get to a place where they're hiding, and then where they hide, the phantom finds them along with these like literal Nazi guards that finds them as well. They don't look to be into good of a situation. So that's basically where it left off. This first issue I would have given it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. Flipping through here, it was honestly the cover that had me interested, but the artwork in this is like insane. It is so good. really, really high saturation, and it's like such a artistic showpiece going from page to page, like this long looking comic strip as I'm like pulling it across the table here. It is so cool and interesting. But from the story standpoint, it's like meh. Like, we'll have to see what all this is about, but it's pretty gruesome and bloody, and like it's cursing and stuff, so extraordinarily adult, but I'm enjoying it. It's good stuff. I'm looking forward to more and just actually learning about this universe and really what it's all about. So this is Echoland's issue number 1. More to come. So yeah. And then finally, we have Dragon Age, Blue Wraith issue number 3. So League gave it a pretty poor score. League gave it a 4. I gave it a 3.4. I gave it a 4. I thought the book was fine. I think people may have had an issue. I don't know how these were released in singles. If you would have read this at the end, it would have been like, oh, that sucks. But now that they're all combined together, I think it's actually a fine story, and it's, you know, pretty obvious progression. But for the ending of just this 3-parter and to have that unsatisfying ending, I would have thought that this was the middle of, you know, the story, and it is the middle of the story. So if it's truly just a single, like, yeah, you'd be pissed. But reading it through the trade here ends up being fine. And our story concludes for this arc where we have the party split into 2. Francesca is with Blue Wraith. They're trying to find her father, and they're all going after this wagon that has this weapon in it called the Red Lyrium. So the other part of the party is already with the wagon, and they're chasing it. And so the parties meet back up together. And so when they meet up together, this is where some more fighting begins. One party member has a horse, Cassie, who gets injured and hurt, and she's hoping that Francesca can heal her. And then Francesca and Blue Wraith run into Francesca's father. And so at first, it seemed like maybe Blue Wraith was trying to kill him, but that's not really the case. And more specifically with Francesca and Blue Wraith working together, Francesca said, you know, please promise that you will not kill my father. So the father is dumped out of the wagon. That's where he was the whole time. And he won't listen. He's just an asshole jerk off who thinks he's better than everyone else. Everyone is beneath him, and he's way more powerful. And so he sees Blue Wraith, and he just immediately starts fighting. And he's like, hear me out. Like, we're not fighting. We're all on the same side. Like, we just basically came to rescue you. He's like, I'm not hearing any of this. The fact that you're with him means that you're weak, and like the fact that you didn't kill him already, like he's just flipping out. And so Blue Wraith and the father keep fighting, and it gets to the point where the father gets the upper hand. And so Francesca comes to a realization that like her father truly is just like a dick, and you cannot bring him back from whatever, you know, power hungry assholery that is he is. And so in a rage, she ends up killing him by sending like this vine that goes right through his chest. And she kills her own father. She's crying, tears everywhere. It's, you know, pretty sad and upsetting. And so then the party comes together. The wagon completely got away in all the chaos that took place with the distraction of the father. And one party member from the first part is like, I can't do this anymore. Like, people are just dying, and it's not what I want to do. So he decides he's going to leave. And then the rest of the party, I think including Blue Wraith, so they basically dropped one and added in Blue Wraith. Now they're going to continue to follow the wagon to its final destination, which is this other town. So yeah, that was the story. That was pretty epic, to be honest. I don't know why League had such an issue with it. Maybe because it wasn't clear. And again, if it also wasn't clear that like, yeah, there's going to be more that comes after this, I think I would have been ticked off as well. So let's see. Where do we get? Yeah, here we are. So here's where everyone like meets up with this van, and the fighting's going on. The father, he is now out of the wagon, and they're fighting just kind of back and forth. But the father won't listen. Blue Wraith has him pinned down at first, but then he doesn't. And then here, I think, is the scene, yeah, where she ends up killing him. And then it's like, oh man, couldn't redeem him, couldn't save him. And then the party's trying to figure out what all to do now. She does end up healing up the horse, and now they're going to go off, try to go after this Red Lyrium at the next town. So yeah, that's Dragon Age. Blue Wraith issue number 3. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.4. So that is it. Those are all the books. Ooh, bunch of heavy books this time too. A bunch of hardcovers. So I'm trying to lift it all up and then just go through everything here really quickly, one by one, just so you have a recap of everything. So we had Avengers issue number 34, a nice recap of 1 through 33, everything that's happening here. But in the end, for the Holy Grail, one of the Avengers has to decide who is going to be the one to survive the universe as they reset the whole thing. Then The Nice House by the Sea, issue number 3. We have Oliver meeting up with Nora, Reg, and Ryan. They head back to their biome. Max is going to meet up with Walter, but one person in the sea biome is on to Oliver. We got Ghost Pepper, issue number 1, introduced to Ash, trying to figure out what all is going on here in this anime stylized Mad Maxi style world. Then Saga issue number 45. We have the visions of Alana's unborn son, but it causes her to go into cardiac arrest, and they run into this monster in the end. We had Batman The Killing Joke, back from 88. Doesn't quite live up to the hype, tad bit overrated, but you can see where the inspiration for a lot of modern comics comes from. Then Issunboshi. We have Issunboshi, who is one part of this great sword. He's captured by this raven and dropped to his death, or so we think. Then we had Poison Ivy issue number 14. Poison Ivy is lost in this big condominium where she finds the villain, while at the same time we have Janet, who is with Harley Quinn, and they share a kiss after running into Batman. Fables 156, Jack and the Green gets arrested, and then the other werewolf kids are continuing their adventures. We have Echolands, just the start here of this story, where we have Red, who is stealing this artifact, but it looks like she's now caught. And then Dragon Age, Blue Wraith, issue number 3. Francesca's father cannot be redeemed. She ends up slaying him, and the rest of the party is going to chase after the red lyrium in the next town. So that's it. Those are the books. That'll do it for this week's Omega. We'll have a standard issue on Saturday. And then I already know for next week I'm not going to be doing an Omega because the travel starts up with work, and it's just way too much pressure to try to get like an Omega done as well. So it'll be kind of just the standard issue, which of course is going to continue to push things back as far as the backlog. But it's only 5 pulls for this week, so I should be able to read through 5 more of these stories here as we continue through a lot of these trades. But yeah, we'll close it out. So be sure to check out the description below. That's where you can find the channel on social media. I've been doing a better job about posting the different polls that I've been getting. And then, of course, if you like the show, rate it 5 stars. Follow, subscribe, like, do all the things. That helps out as well. Feel free to send in an email, Saturday morning, comicreview@gmail.com. That is where you can send any emails to the show. And then lastly, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, there's a link for buymeacoffee.com/Saturday Morning Review. That is where you can go ahead and support. Anything financially would be really appreciated. All the funds would honestly just go towards comics. So yeah, I think that will go ahead and close it out. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.